Hello there, Meg Burns here to explain a communication model to you, which I know is very exciting news. You've been waiting all day, I can tell, so I'll get right into it. The communication model we'll be discussing today is I.A. Richards' Meaning of Meaning, which an older version of our textbook covered. So the guy explaining it was the writer of our textbook. How exciting. Just a warning, if random women are walking around back here, this is my dorm room, so say hello to my roommates. Okay. Oh, look, see, there's one now. You can't see her, but you could. There, yeah, anywho. Okay, moving right along. Now the basic principle, oh, and I have notes. Exciting. So the basic principle of the communication model that we're going to be discussing today is that words in and of themselves don't have any real concrete meaning, but individuals give words meaning. An example of this would be the word kiss, which is something that the book uses. To you or me, a kiss means a romantic gesture or a loving gesture between two individuals. But the word kiss itself doesn't mean an embrace because words have no meaning floating out there in word space. The word kiss could easily be the word befarktel, and if we associated that to mean an embrace, it would be the same thing. And I know, befarktel's a really cool word. Don't try and steal it. Moving on. So basically what the model gives us is just 4 ways to speak so that we'll be understood by other individuals, because since words have no meaning in and of themselves, it is easy to get misunderstood. So it gives us 4 tenets of how to understand each other better, and if we follow all 4 of these, then we won't have any problems. And the 4 tenets are definition, metaphor, feed forward, and basic English. And they're all pretty basic ideas to grasp. The first tenet, that would be definition, basically states that a definition are words used to describe another word. If you think of it like a map in your brain, I'm here and I'm trying to define the word picture frame, and so I'm going to use other words to make a little bridge to get to where I want to be. The best way to make sure your definitions are understood by other individuals is to use a path that would be the most likely or most applicable. Understand your audience, know who you're talking to, and make a bridge accordingly. Because definitions describe ideas in our head rather than physical realities, we have to be very careful when using them. But if we do it in a way that's widely understood, then our definition will also be understood. And the second tenet is metaphor. Basically, all that to say is that we need to use metaphors in our daily language. Richards describes the brain as a connecting organ, meaning that everything sort of jumbles around in our head but makes like nets together to connect itself. So when speaking to people, we use metaphors, or we should use metaphors, to connect our ideas and make them widely understood. If you had a bad day, you would say something like, my day was like a rotten apple, because we understand that a rotten apple is not a good thing. So by using logical metaphors, it helps another individual understand what you're talking about and better get the picture that you're trying to paint for them within your head. Metaphors offer clarity. They're not supposed to make things fruity or hard to understand. Well, sometimes they do if you're like reading weird poetry or something. I don't know. And then the third tenet, which Richard says is probably the most important tenet that you need to remember, is feed forward. All this to say is that you're putting yourself in the place of someone trying to understand you. So if I was writing an article, I would spend the time to put myself in the reader's shoes while I was writing it, to understand if my message was coming across. When giving this video, I spent some time thinking, is what I'm saying making sense? Are they going to understand my explanation? That's the principle of feed forward, putting yourself in your audience or the recipient's shoes so that you know what's going to be said and you can kind of get a basic idea of how it will be interpreted, therefore alleviating any confusion that could potentially happen. And the final tenet is that of basic English. That didn't come out right. Richard says that there are 850 English words needed to understand any complex concept that you could try to explain. He taught English in a foreign country, and he used these 850 words to explain complex thoughts. Once the person learning English understood these words, Richard said they would be able to understand any concept. Richard's got a little bit of heat from this, people saying that 850 words isn't enough to understand any complex thought, but the writer of the textbook, when explaining this model, used only words that were on that list of 850 words, and I understood every concept. I never had to look through and think, oh, that word is hard to understand. These 850 words, if you use them correctly, will alleviate any kind of confusion or dissonance between what you're saying and what someone else is hearing. So basically, if you follow all 4 of these tenets, you and I can talk and get along great, and we'll understand everything that we're saying. That's all.